It is absolutely terrifying to be taking my top earning book out of Kindle Unlimited. Hello and welcome if you are new here. My name is 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗄. I am a fantasy author. I write epic fantasy, romantic fantasy, and sometimes romantic epic fantasy. I know a lot of authors have a lot of really strong feelings one way or another about Kindle Unlimited. I don't really want to talk about that a whole lot. It's more about the emotional impact of making a decision like this, even though for me it's going to be temporary. So my best-selling book is The Assassin's Bride, which is a fantasy romance or romantasy type book. And I feel like the title kind of explains the whole thing. It is this one right here. And since this book has been released, I have had the whole series in Kindle Unlimited, and it has done really well for me. I have plans to eventually have the book available wide, but where I am in life right now, I just don't have the time to be able to market as much as it would need for a book to be successful wide, so this has been the best choice. But this month, at the end of this month, the KU term is up and the book is coming out, at least for a little while. That does not mean I am taking the book wide right now, and for the moment, the other two books in the series are staying in Kindle Unlimited. I'm just gonna leave them in there and let them do their thing. But a lot of my books never got the launch that I really wanted them to have. And now that I have finished my epic fantasy series Spectrum Legacy and my schedule is wide open and I haven't started writing anything else just yet, now is the perfect time for me to back up a little bit and launch my books the way I really wanted to in the beginning. So really, to be able to explain everything leading up to this, I have to back up a couple of years and explain that I had drastically shifted my production schedule, my publishing schedule, and really just like my schedule in general. All of my hobby activities and everything to accommodate just really focusing and finishing everything that I had already started that I had not yet completed. I had an epic fantasy series going, I had the romantasy series going, and I had a partially done fairy tale that I had to get all of this out. Under normal circumstances, that's not the kind of thing that you would suddenly drop everything to focus on, but unfortunately at the time I had some very serious health issues that were coming up, and while I was going in for tests and CT scans to try to find out what was wrong with me, there were a lot of options that were coming up that had a very real possibility of being a negative impact on my overall lifespan. So my priorities kind of shifted then, and it became, I don't want to leave anything unfinished. And in saying that, I know it sounds very morbid, and I hope it's something that nobody ever has to relate to. Fortunately, that has not really been the case. I am not considered at risk of having my heart suddenly self-destruct, but it is something that my cardiologist wants to keep an eye on, so I have to go in for testing every few years. This is related to the joint hypermobility issues that I struggle with a lot in my hands that give me a lot of pain in my hands and my shoulders whenever I write. And I know that for most writers, if they intend to spend their entire lifetime writing like I want to do, I will get to the end of my lifespan and leave things unfinished. This was just a lot younger than I thought that was going to be a question. And at the time, I was only halfway into an epic fantasy series that I had desperately wanted to write. So I made a lot of life changes to accommodate what I had started. I still wanted all of my books to be the absolute best quality writing that I could produce, but that meant I had to put everything else aside. And one of the things that got pushed to the side was the marketing, and another thing was the ability to spend a bunch of time focusing on a book release. With the release of Spectrum Legacy, everything that I had on my plate is done. I currently have no open projects. I have not started anything else. I've got a lot of plans for things I want to write, but I don't have any unfinished manuscripts. And that feels pretty good, but it also frees me up to finally be able to back up a little bit and give my books the launch that I originally wanted. When I wrote my epic fantasy series, The Snake's Blood Saga, which This one is book 2, but just to have something to show. When I was writing and publishing these books, I had such a fun launch for each one of them. I had so many extras. I had tons of character art. I had bookmarks. I had keychains. I had all kinds of stickers. There were map prints. And it was just so much fun. All the little extras that go along with a really fun launch. And it brought me so much joy, and my readers loved it so much. But that was like the first thing that had to be cut when the priority became making sure that the books were completed and good. The last book that had a launch that was really kind of like what I wanted was 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, which was the first book in the epic fantasy series I just finished writing. But even then, it fell a little bit short of what I had originally hoped to be able to do. I had some bookmarks and I had some stickers, but a lot of the rest of the fun stuff, like all the character art, that just never happened because I do most of my own character art, and I didn't have the time to spare for it. So each time a new book came out, I would spend all of my time, writing and editing and polishing and making the absolute best book that I could. But as soon as I published something, that was it. It was on to the next thing, no time to enjoy what I had done. And it really kind of hurt to neglect my stories that way, to be able to ensure that everything got finished. But now that my health is better under control, and that looming thought of maybe I won't have the life expectancy that I thought I was supposed to get, that's all gone. Now I can back up and I can give myself the treat of relaunching all of these stories that didn't get the attention that I wanted to give them. After discussing it with a lot of friends, we determined that the best way for me to relaunch the series was to release a new format. So I took the time to design a new cover that's going to be for the hardcover edition of The Assassin's Bride, and I'm going to be doing the whole series in hardcover as the new launch release. That means I also finally get the time to do all the fun stuff. I've drawn like cute little chibis for stickers. I've done artwork for bookmarks that my sister has helped color. And overall, I'm just really excited about being able to do all these little extras. Unfortunately, anytime you start getting into making like book swag and stuff like that, and commissioning art or doing it yourself, there's a really big financial investment that also goes into it. That was when a bunch of my friends suggested that I should consider running a Kickstarter campaign to launch the hardcover edition. It's not going to have all of the bells and whistles that a lot of the special editions that you see on Kickstarter have, but it'll have a whole lot of swag. There are a bunch of stretch goals, and I'm also hoping that the campaign will ultimately raise enough money for me to start putting some aside for the cover and editing and other expenses that would go along with creating a 4th book in the series. Each of the 3 books that are currently out are loosely seasonal. The Assassin's Bride takes place in the autumn, the Spy Master's Prize takes place in the winter, and The Artificer's Wife happens in the spring. So that leaves me with a book for summer. I have a lot of ideas for what I can do with that, and I really want to be able to dig into that in the coming year. But when I started reading about best practices for Kickstarter campaigns and looking at how other authors were setting up their tiers, I noticed that pretty much everybody offered the ebook as one of the backing tiers. One of the things that I noticed was that I had a gap between my tiers because I went right from having a really low dollar like digital rewards package, which has all kinds of like printables and coloring pages and printable bookmarks and stuff like that. And then there was the paperback, and there was nothing in between. That is the gap where the ebook is supposed to go. But if I had the book in Kindle Unlimited, I would not be able to have it there on Kickstarter. After a long time discussing it with my friends, I felt like it was going to be the best decision to pull the book so that I could use it as a tier reward for the Kickstarter campaign, even though it is my highest earning book and most of the royalties come from Kindle Unlimited. I worry a lot about what kind of impact a month out of KU is going to have on the series. But overall, I think the rewards for a potentially funding campaign are a lot more rewarding than just another month of KU royalties. For one big advantage is Kickstarter is its own market that I have never touched, so it's a great opportunity for me to find a bunch of new readers, introduce them to the series, and build up a foundation that'll let me start publishing a lot of other books in hardcover format and giving them the launches that I want. But some of the risk is also offset by the fact that Kickstarter pays out like 2 weeks roughly after a campaign ends, whereas Amazon pays out 3 months later. So even if my royalties from Amazon take a huge hit, ideally, if the campaign funds, I'll have the campaign funding readily available to offset that very sudden drop a couple months from now. The biggest question at this point is if the book will bounce back after I put it back into Kindle Unlimited after the campaign is over. I don't have an answer for that, and I haven't been able to find a lot of information about it either, because a lot of the people I see doing Kickstarter for books, they're usually launching new books. So they don't have any idea really of what that hit might entail. I haven't seen any other people who have pulled books from Kindle Unlimited to be able to put them on Kickstarter, but I have seen some people asking about it, so I know I'm not the only one with the question. As of right now, everything is ready for the campaign. The campaign launches on August 28th. And I'm excited to see what it'll do. I'm very nervous that it may not fund and then I'll have pulled the book out for nothing, but I'm going to kind of, cross my fingers and hope for the best. And even though it's a risk to take, I think that the potential for good that'll come out of it is a lot greater than the risk of losing a portion of my royalties. Unfortunately, this book usually constitutes like half of my monthly income. So like I said, very intimidating. But I'm going to do my best to stay optimistic. As I am running the campaign and fulfilling it, I plan to make some videos about that experience because I think people would really enjoy seeing that. Kind of a glimpse behind the curtain, behind the scenes. So I will keep you posted on that. But until it launches, that's really all I have to share right now. So wish me luck. I will keep you posted on how things progress. And if you are curious and just kind of want to follow along with the campaign after it launches, I will drop a link to the pre-launch page in the video description so you can check it out there. That is all for today though. Thank you for joining me and I will see you next time. Bye.